It's comprised of about 60 member organizations. You can see some of these bubbles of the Swing Left chapters, the States Win chapters, the Indivisible chapters, all in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have also independent groups, statewide groups, county parties, all from the San Francisco Bay Area. And we partner really closely with the California Democratic Party. And many of you registered today through the California Democratic Party. And as I mentioned, we're going to have a phone bank at 2:30. So after the training, so you can practice your skills. So that's going to also be with our Bay Area Coalition trainers. And the reason we're all doing this is because we need to connect with voters in order to win the 2026 midterms. They're not that important this year, right? They're absolutely critical to our democracy. And the California congressional districts are some of the most important districts we need to win, and we have priority districts we'll be calling. So I just want to for anyone who just entered, all of the work we're doing now with voters, whether it be canvassing, voter registration, phone banking, we're using these deep canvassing tools, and they help us have meaningful conversations with voters. And obviously, an important part of that is to motivate them to vote. But it's not just that, it's to make a connection that lasts. So without any more words from me, there is one more word from me. Please pass this around to people. Make sure your vote counts. The deadline to mail, for those of you not from California, we have a California primary that ends on June 2nd. And due to postal service changes, we won't go into them, but I'm pretty sure they were all designed to suppress the vote and make it harder for Californians to vote. But because of those changes, your ballot may not count if you don't mail your ballot before May 26th. After May 26th, please, the minute when May 26th comes, start using drop boxes. Bring your ballot to a polling place or a vote center, but do not use the US mail after May 26th because it is pretty much a 1.5 week delay before your ballot would get to, if it does get to the Secretary of State so your vote will count. So please pass that around because a lot of people are talking about waiting to the last minute. So that's fine if that's what they want to do. I really highly advise against that. But anyway, that's enough on voting. Let's get to let's stop sharing there. Let's get to Kathi. So I'm going to introduce Kathi. She is going to introduce herself because she's really good at that. But just know she's a beloved trainer that has helped all of us be more effective at communicating in our lives and with voters. So Kathy's going to go ahead and share her slides now, and we're just going to keep everyone muted. And thanks, Kathi. You go ahead.
1 second here. Let me get my act together. It takes a while for me to get my act together. Good afternoon, everybody. I am very happy to be here. I'm very happy that you joined us. And I'm so happy that you're willing to do this work. It is thankless work. So allow me to thank you. It's hard work making phone calls and knocking on doors and doing all the things that we really have to do to reach voters. So I so appreciate your efforts. And if I can make just things just a little bit easier for you, then hopefully I can do that, and that helps me feel like I'm contributing. So thank you for that. Why I'm here and why I'm telling you how to communicate to people. It's a little crazy because when I look out at the sea of faces, we have people we don't have any kids on the phone. You are all mature folks. You've been communicating all your bloody lives. You know how to talk. And some of you even know how to listen, though I will say that's probably the minority of you. But we know how to talk. We've been communicating all our lives. Many of you are professional people. You've had responsibilities. You've been tasked with communicating with all sorts of people. So why do you need this? Well, maybe you don't. But hold their judgment until the end of this. I have been, my background is I was 42 years as a psychiatric nurse. And during those 42 years, I had several relative little minor expertise, little specialties. One of them was communication, motivational interviewing. I worked with a lot of programs that were called dual diagnosis, that they had behavioral health issues as well as substance abuse issues. We used motivational interviewing, which we will get into later in today's session. I also worked at some point, I was in charge of manager of phone banks. So I knew a little bit about answering phones, making outgoing phone calls, and what that means. I also know a little bit something about making difficult phone calls. As I said, I was a psychiatric nurse. Those are not easy phone calls all the time. And I worked especially with a bunch of medical nurses who were doing outreach to diabetics. Now, people with diabetes, there's a 25% risk of having significant depressive symptoms if you're a diabetic. So what we were doing, we're calling diabetics and asking them if they're depressed and suicidal. So if you think your phone calls are difficult, those are not easy phone calls. So if we can do that, we can get our toe into a lot of telephone calls with people, and offer and provide an opportunity for them to chat about what's important to them. So that's a little bit. And the other thing I want to stress is, as I mentioned, you guys are all experienced communicators. But I have found from experience that even those people who know exactly what to do don't always do it. So I'm here to remind you of what is important to do in terms of effective communication. We get lazy and we get into habits. And so I'm just here to remind you of what is really good communication and what will work often on the phone or when you're knocking on doors with people. So that's what I'm going to try to do as soon as I get my computer to start working again. Aha. Okay. So, by the way, Ed, you had a question before we started. Let me answer it quickly. Everything we're going to talk about today, you can use at home. You can practice at home. You can practice on the phone. You can practice with anybody you come in contact with. There is nothing here that I'm going to talk about that is outrageously clever and certainly nothing dangerous. All of it is helpful in our communications with the people we love and the people we don't love. So firstly, let's talk a little bit about the basics of communication. We're going to talk about the goals. Goals become very important. You need to know what you're trying to do. We're going to talk about how to engage people quickly, how to get their attention without them hanging up on you. Not an easy feat, probably the hardest thing you all have to do. And we're going to talk about how to ask questions, questions in a way that's likely to get us the richest answer. And we're going to talk about listening. That is your superpower. I don't care whatever else you do. You have got to listen. That's the most important thing that you can do in your lifetime, if you ask me. It is our superpower. And there are so few people who are really, really good at it. I'm looking at one hand, and that's all I need. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's talk about goal-focused communication. I've worked with a lot of behavioral health specialists over the years, psychologists, social workers, nurses, all sorts of people. And often I've been asked to evaluate their communication. And so we look at how they communicated with this patient, that patient, whatnot, and we pick it apart. And one of the biggest issues they have is they weren't sure what they were trying to do. I'm the best communicator I know in the world when I know what it is I'm trying to say. And when I don't know what it is I'm trying to do or I'm unsure of it, I fall flat on my face every time. And that's often when we're struggling with somebody we love, a friend of ours, we're struggling to communicate. Think about what it is you're trying to say. What is it you're trying to do? And clarification will come from that. It's like a miracle. So we need to be clear about what it is we're trying to do. We could focus on a goal, very specific goals, and distractions are easy. So if we don't have a goal, we are going to be led astray. So we want to establish an overall goal. So when you're going to get on the phone bank at 2:15 today, what are you going to try to do? What are your personal goals? What are the goals for the campaign? What is it that you want to get through in the hour or two that you're going to be making phone calls? It might be that you want to connect with the voters. You want to get them on the phone. It might be that you want to listen to their concerns and interests. And it might be that you want to collect data for the campaign, information that you're going to document for others to use. Those are certainly goals. But there's also goals specific to your performance and your behavior that's important. Success might be measured by that behavior and not necessarily the big, huge overall goals. It might be I'm going to sit still when I do phone calls, I'm going to sit still in this chair for 45 minutes. That for me is a big goal. Or I'm going to make X number of phone calls in the next hour. Or I'm going to not deal with my husband and kids for the next hour and a half. Those are goals and they're reasonable goals. I'm going to make 50 phone calls in the next hour and a half. Those are important things to make for yourself so that you can measure your own success. Even if you didn't connect with 10,000 voters, if you promised that you would call 25 of them and you did, that's great. You have a success. So make sure your goals are easy and measurable, and interim goals that you can kind of hang your hat on along the way. And measure your success and make sure you give yourself credit for that success. Because as I said, this is thankless work and nobody else is going to thank you. So you better pat yourself on the back. And you may have to change your goalposts as you go along. If you're not realistic about calling 50 people in an hour, then change it for the next time so that you can be successful. By the way, we will, if you have questions, put them in the chat. I will stop at some point and we'll answer questions, but I'm not going to answer them as I go because our time is so limited. I'm going to be talking as fast as I can. So identify the goals of the campaign. That's important. When you're making phone calls, many of you know that you're going to be doing things for a particular campaign, say for a particular congressperson, or it's in Georgia, or it's in central, California, or something else. They've got a campaign that you're working for them. They've got something they want you to do. It might be connecting with voters. It might be listening to the issues that affect them. That might be what they want us to do. It might be gathering data about the common issues that are important so that Congressman X, Y, and Z knows that their people in the Central Valley believe all the following things. He might need to introduce a candidate, especially right now with the change in the districts. You might want to get out the vote, which we're doing for the midterms. We may need to provide them information that we're not sure they have or have not. We have the information for them so that we want to provide that information for them. So those are some of the goals that a campaign is going to want to engage us for. And the skills that you're going to need to be successful, this is what we're really talking about. These are the skills. And by the way, this is a skills training, and unfortunately, we don't have time to practice the skills. So that's why I reinforce the fact that you can practice these skills. If you're serious about improving your communication, please practice everything. In fact, when we have a workshop and I do practices in a multi-hour workshop, the phony practices don't work really well. The best practice you can have is when you got a real person on the phone, or a real husband to talk to, or a real kid to latch on to. So The skills you're going to need are to be able to engage people very quickly, succinctly. We don't have all day. You got somebody, they answered the phone. That's the bloody first miracle, that they answered the phone. You got them on the phone. Don't waste your opportunity. We need to be able to ask open-ended questions of them, and we need to listen to the answers, which is the hard part. And we're going to talk about motivational interviewing, and we'll get into those in detail. But the first thing is that engagement. We need, how do you get people on the phone? Many of you have tricks already that you use. You have scripts that work for you. And so, but what makes a good elevator speech? And in elevator speech, I'm using the term elevator because, you know, if you're on the elevator and you're going from the first floor to the second or the third floor, and you need to tell somebody something very important, you'd better have your act together in what you're going to ask them or tell them, because you only got a few seconds to make your point. So it better be good, and it better be quick, and it better be succinct, because you're not going to get another chance. You must include, you have to be brief. You have to have an explicit purpose. I'm calling you because I'm not haunting you. I'm calling you for a reason. List it immediately. You might want to list the expectations that you have of them. I only need 2 minutes of your time. That's my expectation of you. I want to ask you 5 questions, 2 questions, however specific you can be. And what can you expect of me? I'm going to listen to your answers. So what do you want to expect from the person you're calling? What can you expect of yourself? I'm only going to take 5 minutes of your time. You tell them what they can expect of you. Include, if you can, and I say if you can, the value it is for the target. I want to make sure you're represented by your congressperson. Your views are represented. Why should they do that? Why should they talk to you? If there's a value to them, make sure you include that in your speech. And it's important that it be your speech, not somebody else's, not mine, not anybody else but yours. It has to be organic to how you communicate. And you'll be given scripts and whatnot by campaigns. And if you read that, I will hang up on you. It has to be your words, your personality, who you are. And if it's not who you are, work on it. You need to get it to who you are. Use your personality, be who you are, and then be genuine. So I know I can say these till the cows come home. There are many people on this phone, on this call, that have done this over and over and over again. And I'm going to ask a few of them to give us examples of their elevator speech, because they know better than I do. So I'm going to pick on Margaret first, because I always do. And Margaret, God bless you. You are a glutton for punishment. She's been to every damn training I've ever done. And one day you're going to learn it, Margaret. I just know.
Hey, Kathy, can I ask you, can you just stop sharing screen for a minute so we can see everybody? Thank you.
Okay.
Kathy. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Margaret. It's
Hello.
always so good to see you.
Good to see you too. Always, always.
So what's your elevator speech? You have a good one.
I practice them before the phone bank, and I find that the first 3 calls I make, I'm flubbing around. But however, here we go. Hi, may I speak to Kathi Walsh? This is Margaret Partlow. I'm with the Democrats, and I have a question for you that will help us elect the right person for our district. It's a quick, brief question. We want to know what issues are affecting you right now from being done by our government, in the world, your family, just your opinion of how you are faring in this government that we're under now.
Wonderful.
Well, it's kind of flopping around.
It flops around. know, as I said, it needs to be organically you.
We have some other good people on here who can do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, but it is a good. I just wanted to point out that it is a good elevator speech in that it's brief. This is who I am. I'm with the Democrats. You don't go into any brouhaha about what Democrat, when, where. Just that nobody cares. I'm with the Democrats, and I want to ask you one question, et cetera, et cetera. You were very clear, very concise. No big deal. And thank you, Margaret. We've got a
Yeah.
couple others that might be look a little bit different. Lori, do you have one?
Yeah, I do often what Margaret does, but this time of year when people have already received their ballots or should have already received their ballots, and I'm sensing hesitation, I will say, you know, we're just want to make sure that you've received your ballot, and asking them a question right away to get them engaged, to me usually helps. And then I will go into, great, I'm glad you got it. Just a quick question about how you're feeling about what's happening in the country right now, that's tying in with what the script is that we're using right now. But I just
Okay.
find the sooner I ask them a question, the less likely they are to hang up on me or
Okay.
get more engaged.
That's a different approach, Lori, and I like it. You're getting them to engage with you right away, not necessarily with what the goal of was that particular campaign was, but the goal of engaging. That's a
And
reasonable
that's
way to
if
get
we're
in the
doing,
door.
yeah, and that's if we're doing a get out the vote script later in the
Yeah, yeah.
conversation. I wouldn't start that, obviously, if it wasn't already part of it, just to get them to just converse with me and then go back to what we were doing.
So you'll find some issue that you can get them to
To just
participate.
talk back
Yeah.
to me.
Okay,
Especially if
great.
they feel really quiet, and I feel like they don't want to talk to me because I said the word Democrats.
Yeah. All right. The dirty word Democrats. Okay,
By the way,
wonderful. Thank you, Lori.
Kathy, can I just say something about the Democrats? I've heard people say the Democratic Party. Mm, I think the Democrats, if you're, let's just talk about that. I think it is important that we not be, sneaky and just, hey, I'm here to talk with you about your issues like that. No, I mean, I think we should be honest. And yeah, if people hang up, well, that's their loss. But I definitely wouldn't say Democratic Party or the Democratic Party. Just a little addition.
Okay, that's fair enough as well.
There's that
As I said, you
question.
guys know it works.
Well, there's a question in the chat right now about why do we need to identify ourselves as calling for the party right away? And we do have to do something. We don't have to say the California Democratic Party, but we do need to identify ourselves right
Yeah,
off
well,
the bat.
the minimal Democrats, I
Yeah,
think,
no,
is a
exactly. Yeah,
reasonable approach.
a good compromise.
Okay, and we have another. Let's see, Berta, do you want to
No,
share
Sue,
yours?
actually, Sue is ready too.
Sue is ready. Where are you, Sue? I gotta find you.
Here I am.
Oh, there you are, right in the middle of my screen.
When I start out, I've been calling with the new room, and so we've been doing more of the deep canvassing calling, and we've just switched over to get out the vote. But my typical start would be, "Hi, I'm Sue. I'm a volunteer with the California Democratic Party. This is not a fundraising call. We're just checking with people in your area to see if there are any issues that you're concerned about and that you would like to discuss." And then if they're, usually that elicits a lot of response. And if it doesn't, then we, probe on and say, well, yeah, there's a lot going on. Is there anything specific on your mind? And then just going from there.
Okay, wonderful. So you also start, which often people do, Sue, with I'm not asking you for money, and you may like to put that in there as soon as possible because a lot of folks are, I'm not asking you for money, so you might want to try that if you're getting people skittish to talk to you. So that's a good option. Not only are we telling them what we expect of them, I want to know what's important to you, but what I'm not doing is asking you for money. So those two might go hand in hand. That's an option. Wonderful. Berta, do you have something different?
Not too different, though. Basically, I start with, yeah, I'm a volunteer and just calling to find out how things are going with you and what issues are impacting your life right now. And we're trying to gather this information for the future, so we can pass it on to our elected officials, something like that.
So
I mean,
simple. This is
I
what I'm
stop
going
in
to do.
between. I let them answer first,
You,
but yeah.
we don't want too many run-on sentences, but
No,
enough
not
that
at
I'm
all.
I'm interested in your opinion. I want to
Yeah,
know. I
yeah,
want, inquiring minds want to
yeah,
know.
right.
So you will all have different openings. Try different ones. What works, do it again. What doesn't work, don't do it again. It's pretty much as simple as that. But if it's not working, go to my criteria and see what you're missing. Is it not succinct? Is it too drawn out? Is it asking closed-ended questions and whatnot? Just evaluate your own self. And if you want to talk to one of your coaches in the breakout group, if you're not having any luck, discuss it with somebody. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Okay, here we go again. So that's your elevator speech. All right. Notes about scripts. Ugh, I hate scripts. That's my biggest note. My biggest note to you about script is I hate scripts. Whoops. See, I hate them so much, I ignore them altogether. Scripts are usually given to us by a campaign. They want us to do something, so they get clever and they give us scripts so that they want us to say something. These will communicate their goals and their priorities, and that's important. I don't want to minimize the need of a campaign to get their work done. But you can customize them and make it more organic to who you are and your style of communication. So the challenge for you is recognizing the script, looking at it, perusing it, taking it in, and then making it your own while still complying with the priorities of the campaign. And that's not an easy task necessarily. And if I answer the phone, which I do sometimes, usually by mistake, and some young darling person starts reading me a script, I will almost inevitably hang up. I will hang up every time. I don't know if other people do. I'm just telling you that I do, because I cannot tolerate somebody. If you're reading me a script, you're not going to listen to me. You're not going to really communicate with me. I can have AI can call me and read me a script. Thank you very much. If that's what we want, we will get machines and robots to do this work we don't need to. You might give some thought to prioritizing the goals. Sometimes campaigns can be very ambitious. They want you to do 6 things. You might want to spend some time prioritizing those because you might not be able to get to all of them. So kind of make a list of priorities. And you're going to have to document it in a computer system, but don't let the computer system manage your communication, if that makes sense. So this is an actual script that we have from one of the campaigns. And you can see how long it is, if nothing else. Hello, I'm a volunteer we're talking to people in the community to hear what issues are important to you and talk about the election. There's a lot going on right now. When are you going to let me talk? What issues are on your mind that are concerning you and your family? That's okay. This isn't terrible, but it's awfully long and it's not mine. This is not how I would talk. Thanks for sharing. I would never say that in a million bloody years. Thank you for sharing. That's why I'm out here talking to folks like you, because this year we will elect our congressperson. Their job is representing this community. Tell me something I don't know. Do you really think I'm that stupid? This is not a good script. It's not a bad goal. If we can break this down, it's not a bad thing to do. This is just not an especially good script, and it's not how I talk. So I need to make it sound organic to me. So what I've done with this script is I've highlighted those things which I think are the priorities of the campaign. What issues are on your mind? It's concerning you and your family. This will be a year when we elect a congressperson. And how likely is it that you're going to vote for a Democrat? That's what I think this campaign was really sincerely wanting us to find out. And that's what the system is going to allow us to document. Break it down just like this. And then figure out what your script is going to be. So given the goal of generating a list of voter issues and priorities, many of you did it in your elevator speech, list your top 3 topics. What are your top 3 hot topics? Things that you want your congressperson to be most concerned with. That's my words. I can ask that right up front. I can ask that in my elevator speech. The second goal was make sure the voter is aware of the congressional race, and especially now since there's a new opportunity because of the current Republican incumbent and the redistricting. So I'm not going to assume somebody's totally unaware of it and start educating them about it. I'm going to say something like, I'm not sure how aware you are of the redistricting and the opportunities that we have. There is a Republican congressman right now, and it's a very unusual election. Maybe you'd like to talk about that. So I'm not assuming they don't know anything, and yet I am bringing it up as an issue. I want to judge the voters' willingness to vote Democrat and begin change talk as appropriate. Now, the change talk, we were going to get into change talk later in this session, very specifically, but the script asked us to rate on a scale from 1 to 10 how likely it is that they're going to vote Democrat, 1 being not likely and 10 being very likely. I think that's a great opportunity for us to start discussing what's important, also to start triaging who we should talk to and who we should not. So park that issue for a minute on a scale from 1 to 10, and what to do with that answer, that becomes important as we further talk about this. So remember that issue, and we will bring it up again. And this gives us an opportunity to start what we call change talk. It's a great, great opportunity. Okay, asking questions. Simple dimple. We know that closed-ended questions, limited a reply that's required. It might be most efficient in many circumstances. If you go to the doctor and they say, hey, do you have hypertension? Yes, no. Do you have diabetes? Yes, no. Closed-ended questions are useful. They're efficient, they're effective. They get to the point when we have a limited point to make. Are you a registered Democrat? That's a question. I just want to know the answer. Are you intending to vote on Tuesday? That's a question. I just need to know the answer. Doesn't give me anything else, but that's fine. But just know that there are times to ask a closed-ended question and times to ask open-ended questions. And if you really want to know how somebody thinks about something, what their experience is, what they feel about something, what's important to them, you cannot ask them a closed-ended question. You must ask them more open-ended questions. And we talk about this. There's nobody in this Zoom that doesn't know what I'm talking about. Nobody here doesn't know the difference between an open and a closed-ended question, most likely. However, just start questioning yourself how often you use closed-ended questions. I'm just asking yourself to be more ego observant, if you will. Open-ended questions communicates a desire to understand. It communicates respect for the individual. I care about your opinion. and it nets much, much richer information. So just think for a minute of some closed-ended questions, open-ended questions. So, did you have a good day today? That's a closed-ended question. I really don't care how your day was. I'm just being polite. Did you have a good day today? Yes or no? How was your day today? Is an open-ended question. I would even venture to say is, tell me about your day. Just truly communicate my interest in what you have to say and how your day was. So if you want to know how people are what they're thinking, tell me what are the topmost things on your mind. What's on your mind? Not, are you going, you can say, are you going to vote Democrat? But that's only going to get you a yes or no question. It's not going to tell you much else. So what I'm going to ask you to do just on your Zoom screen, I can look at some of you. Where did you grow up? Is that an open-ended question or a closed-ended question? Is it open or closed? It's open. Would you care to answer a few questions? That's a closed question. How about instead, I have a few questions for you. I hope you're willing to answer them for me. Aren't you interested in climate change? By the way, I like to use commas for a question like that. Aren't you interested in climate change, comma, you idiot? Don't you know that it's important to vote, comma, you idiot? Those kinds of questions are not respectful in any decent way. Aren't you worried? You idiot. Help me understand your concerns. Is that an open or a closed-ended question? That's an open-ended question. Are you going to vote on Tuesday? It's a closed-ended question. And is this an open or closed question? I don't know. It's probably pretty close because it only gives you two options. So once again, this is stuff you already know. It doesn't mean it's stuff you already do. That's the big difference between what we know and what we do. I'll give you that example as we go on. All right, so we ask open-ended questions. Now, I mentioned earlier that listening is your superpower. And I would venture to say, and I don't know you, so don't feel badly, but maybe 1 out of 5 of you is a good listener. Maybe. I really do count on one hand my family and friends and people who are really good listeners, folks that aren't trying, oh, that happened to me too. They're thinking about how they're going to add on to your sentence before you finish your sentence. So listening is so important, and listening with presence and patience, with our eyes, with our ears. Unfortunately, on the phone, you can't listen with your eyes. That's a shame. But that means your voice has got to be fully inflected. And you want to listen with your ears and listen with your heart, with empathy. We want to listen with acceptance and not judgment. And you know what? Another thing for these groups, you guys are passionate about what you're doing. You're passionate about a democracy. God bless you. And that passion gets you to the phone. But that passion, the risk in that passion is to keep you from being open to other people's thoughts. It's a double-edged sword, that passion. It gets you here, it gets you on the phone, it gets you doing these hard things. Don't let it keep you from listening to what's on people's mind. That's the risk. And listen with curiosity. You know, when I talk to somebody who's voted for Trump, I'm curious. Believe you me, I'm curious. What the hell are you thinking? I am curious. I want to listen with delight. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. And I want to listen without interrupting. And that's the hardest thing. I am terrible at that. It's so easy to interrupt. I got a better thought, or that triggers a thought for me. I'm not listening to what you have to say because I got something way better to say. And we have, because we're on the phone, we have to use verbal encouragers. You have to be, oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got it. Because we can't see who we're talking to. And then one of the tools of listening is reflective listening, especially on the telephone. It makes it easier to explore and to clarify things when we're especially on the phone. So when we do reflective listening, we listen to what the individual says and to either ask, and with the purpose of getting them to speak further about it, to clarify the meaning of it, to pursue that thought further instead of just stopping there. We make a reasonable guess as to what the person is really saying, what we heard them say, and we give voice to it in a statement, not a question. So when somebody says, when somebody says, I really have trouble. I'm really having trouble figuring out who to vote for governor this year. It's just confounding to me. Yeah, it really is. It is really confounding. Say more. So get people to talk further about it. Give voice to it in the form of a statement, not a question, and to decide what to reflect and what to ignore. You might be interested in their voting habits, so you might press on that as opposed to I can't even think of it right now. I'm struggling with a good example. I apologize for that. But it requires us to empathize. It requires us to really have heard what they had to say and to imagine what their life might be like. So, for instance, I don't have any children. And I've worked with a lot of mothers who have lost their children. Does that mean I can't understand what they feel? Absolutely not. It means that I can't feel what they feel. I've never felt what they felt. And if I tell them, oh, yeah, I understand, I know how you feel, that's not real. But if somebody says, oh, my life, I just don't feel like I can go on because I lost my baby, I miss him so much, I might say something like, oh, my God, that must leave such a void in your heart. I'm not saying, oh, yeah, I understand, because I don't. But I empathize. I'm imagining when they say I can't live without him, what does that mean imaginatively? What does my heart and my head put together and say, oh my God, that must leave such a void in your heart? And they can say, yes, I'm just desperate to find a way to fill it. And they can further describe that. But it requires me to empathize with them in an experience I've never had. And that's where, I mean, we can spend days on empathy and not, in fact, it's always frustrating to me. I used to teach, as I said, I taught, I was in an organization where I had 2,000 behavioral health experts that I was responsible for their training. And I was giving classes all over the United States. And one of the things we were talking about was communication and empathy. And I had one psychologist says to me, I know how to empathize. Don't be silly. I know how to empathize. I just don't have the time to. And I almost sacked him right then and there. But, what can you do? Empathy requires you to be patient and to imagine what that person is experiencing without judgment. sometimes that's really easy within the case of a mother who lost their baby. It's easy to, oh gosh, imagine how horrible that would be. It's harder when it's something that you just don't understand. I was canvassing door to door in rural Nevada. Outside of Reno, I felt like I had landed on the bloody moon. It was a world I knew nothing about. And I'm telling you, it pushed me to be patient and empathize like nobody's business because their world was different than I had. And one lady said, I said, are you going to vote on Tuesday? She says, oh, yes, yes, of course I'm going to vote. And this was for Obama. It was that long ago. And I said, well, who are you going to vote for? And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, this is Sunday and the election's Tuesday. What's going to happen between now and Tuesday to get you to vote, to tell you who to vote for? And she says, God's going to tell me. I said, oh, I see. And so we talked about God. Now, I am the last person on earth to talk about God. I am a godless heathen. But I spent some time with her and we were chatting and I listened to her and I said, well, tell me the different ways that God has us speaking to you. I'm interested in that. Tell me further about it. How does, anyway, through empathy, I convinced her somehow that I was God's messenger and she was going to vote for Obama because I came from California to engage with her. But it was through, I didn't discount her because she was in a different world than I was in. I didn't discount her because, I don't know, she was waiting for some bloody miracle. But I did imagine what her life was like, and she did engage with me fully, and it was worth the effort. I won't get into that. We talked about empathy. By the way, empathy is not to be confused with sympathy. Sympathy is harmony or agreement. I don't have to give up who I am to empathize with your entirely different experience. But I do have to imagine what your experience is about and imagine what that is emotionally. It's a big difference from sympathy. And it allows us to empathize with all sorts of people that we would not normally be copacetic with if you're really open. Okay, we are on a roll. Motivating voters to take action. That's not always so easy. The common challenges that we hear on the phone all the time. I don't vote. I haven't voted. My vote doesn't count. It's not worth it this time. I don't know who to vote for. I don't want to do it. The process is rigged. It doesn't matter who I vote for. I'm overwhelmed. Nothing will help. There's no sense. Democracy is dead, so forget about it. And our usual approach and how to deal with that is tell them exactly what to do. We have a tendency to tell people, well, you know your vote is important. Every vote is important. You must vote. Every vote counts. We lecture people. I've heard them. We can lecture people till the cows come home over what they're supposed to do and what's important for them. And that, I'm telling you, it does not work. When you tell people what to do, it does not work. People usually behave in their own self-interest. And we're going to talk a little bit about motivational interviewing or the behavior, what motivates behavior, and how can we intervene in such a way that speeds up that movement to change. People almost always behave in their own self-interest. What's good for me, what's good for the people that I love. What's consistent with my moral compass. If you have a moral compass, that's always grand. What's consistent with who I am. I can't do that. That's not me. And if the positive consequences outweigh the negative. So I really like to smoke. I love to smoke. I smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. But it started that the negative consequences were getting in my way. So I had to come to a different conclusion. And people sometimes don't ask act in their own self-interest. They probably will eventually. But sometimes their behavior is such that we need to speed it up before they kill themselves. So sometimes their behavior is unhealthy. Of somebody who's diabetic and who eats lots of carbohydrates, or somebody with hypertension who eats salty foods. They might be willing to accept the negative consequences. I'll live with Donald Trump as president. They're going to live with those negative consequences. It's fine with them. But left to their own devices, eventually they may move in the right direction, but the diabetic might be dead or disabled. The person with hypertension might have a cardiac arrest. So if we leave them alone, they will maybe find a way to equilibrium, but we want to make sure it's not without damage along the way. We use motivational interview techniques when folks aren't acting in their own best interest, and it's dangerous. So we want to speed up their natural behavior change intuition. And what keeps them from acting in their own interest is conflict. I want to vote, but I don't like the candidates. I don't like my choices. That's a common. I'm not voting because, hell, I don't know who to vote for. Or ambivalence on the balance of what, it's a balance of equals. And it keeps people stagnant. I like to smoke, and I know it's not healthy. Both are true. They're equal. I know voting is important, and I don't like the candidates. That's conflict. So sometimes people don't act in their own interest, and usually there's some kind of barrier. They can't get to the polls. They just don't know the rules about voting, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes they have a lack of information. They don't know a lot of information about the candidates. They don't have good information about who's running. And sometimes they're not willing or ready to make a change or take an action. And there are stages of change. There are people who are way ready to change and take action and are super motivated. And on the other end of the extreme, there are people that, oh gosh, to get them to move or to change or to do anything, to take an act of God, like my lady in Reno. She can do a stand-in for God. She's not gonna move. So there are stages of people who are not ready, they're not even thinking about changing, to people who are way ready. Give me information. I want to act. I just need some help with my motivation. So one of our skills, and why we like that 1 to 10 on a scale from 1 to 10, that tells us where is our opportunity. Where are they on that movement? And is there an opportunity for us to speed up the rate of change? But in the meantime, what works for behavior change? Think about yourself. When you have something that's bothersome in your life, some habit that you have, some job that you really don't like, something in your life that requires some action on your part. What works for you? Just think about it personally. Is there someone that has impacted you? If you're overweight and you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you to lose weight, how does that work for you? It usually telling somebody what they need to do to be healthier usually doesn't work. We're not idiots. We know what it takes to lose weight. We know what it takes to stop smoking. We know what it takes to get our hypertension under control. We know a lot of those things. and it doesn't happen. So what works? What works for you to change your behavior? That's what we're going to talk about, what works for a lot of people for changing behavior. We use motivational interviewing, gives us some tools to impact that behavior that's recalcitrant. It's a therapeutic technique. It's used to treat individuals with diseases in which their behavior has a profound effect, like hypertension, diabetes. It was started for the use. It was the motivational interviewing was started to intervene for substance use disorders. Telling somebody that they need to stop drinking just doesn't work. It doesn't work every single time. But motivational interviewing techniques can work. And it's based on the premise that people have a need to change and will act in their own best interest, but that we have techniques that can speed that up. So we're going to borrow a few techniques from that field. So these are 3 simple, dimple techniques that work outrageously well. The first one is called scaling, or the likelihood ruler. So on a scale from 1 to 5, how likely are you to vote? So if somebody says it's a 2, I'm going to ask them, well, that's interesting. Tell me what makes it a 2. Now, that gives me, it's an open-ended question. I ask it with curiosity, and I'm willing to listen to the answer. And it will let me understand what are the barriers or issues that come into play when somebody says, I'm really not going to vote. Let me understand what's in the way. And then I'm going to ask them, so I'll listen empathically, I'll reflect what they say, I'll reiterate it, I'll seek clarification, I will listen actively. And then I'm going to ask them, okay, so on a scale from 1 to 5, what might move you from a 2 to get to a 4 or a 5? What that does is that starts the process of what we call change talk. They start making an argument for change. To think about what's going to get me from a 2 to a 5, that's either going to tell me, no way is it going to happen, because they'll talk me out of it. Or it's going to start them talking about change. Well, I need to get some more information about so-and-so and so-and-so, and I'm really pressured about this or that or the other thing, or I don't have a ride to get, I can't get it by the 26th, I can't read the ballot by then, I don't have any time. So they're going to tell me all the things that are in the way or what they need to do, and that engages a different part of their brain, the problem-solving part of their brain, and they start saying it out loud and making arguments to move. Now, if they say, there's no way I'm going to get to a 5 or a 4, I might say, have a good day. Because there's no opportunity. They don't want to vote. I don't need to spend my time. I got another phone call to make. On that scale of stages of change, from I don't want to change to I'm ready to move, they're way down at the bottom. Don't waste my time. It's not that I'm not interested. It's that there's not an opportunity for movement here. You see? So in that campaign we looked at, in that script we looked at, they asked on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely is it you're going to vote for a Democrat? Wonderful answer. I'm interested to know what supports their answer. So if they say a 5, I'm interested to know more about that 5. So that's when you have an opportunity to to start discussing, well, what makes it a 5? What makes it a 1? What, help me understand. Help me understand. It's one of my favorite questions. Help me understand. And then if they are way down there on a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and they're not going to move, you have a nice day. Thank you for taking my phone call. I really, really appreciate it. And you have a good day. Because we don't have an opportunity. But if they're in the middle, what's going to get them to a 10? And what can I do to support those efforts? So that's one, simple dimple. The other one is linking summary. This is a tool that helps an individual. They might have conflicting priorities. When you hear conflict, they've got 2 things that are important to them. We do a link. So we might say, on one hand, you don't like the way things are going in the government. You hate what's going on today. And on the other hand, you are really busy at work and you can't get away to vote or you can't even read about the issues. Both are true. Both have equal import. I've used this on alcoholics. On one hand, you really, really love to drink and you can almost see their shoulders go down. Yes, somebody understands. I really like to drink. No judgment. I really like to drink. And on the other hand, your wife is going to leave you if you don't stop drinking. I don't have any judgment about that. And I linked it with an and. Both are equally true. On one hand, you like to drink, and on the other hand, your wife is going to leave you. If I said it differently, if I said it on one hand, you like to drink, but your wife is going to leave you, it feels more like an ultimatum that I have a judgment about. You idiot. You like to drink, but your wife is going to leave you, comma, you idiot. Instead of you like to drink and your wife is going to leave you. And I'm just presenting them with their own conundrum. And being presented with the conundrum puts their mind in a place of problem solving the conundrum instead of defending against my judgment. So they start problem solving, they stop being defensive because everybody's told them to stop drinking. I haven't told them to stop drinking. I've just presented them with their own conflict. So it's a very non-judgmental way to bring up conflict. And this is what we're really, really good at. We have really, 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 really good ideas. I have way better ideas than you do. I am so much smarter than you are. Keep your bloody mouth shut. Unsolicited advice is a vice, and it is very rarely, if ever, welcome. If you have information that you might want to impart, you have information about who's running for Congress down in the Central Valley, that's important information. That's wonderful information. I'm so happy you have it. But you tell it to me before I'm ready to accept it. I hang up the phone. So unsolicited advice is never welcome. But if you think one of the reasons why they're not voting is they don't understand, it's just too confusing. I have some information about who's running down there. Perhaps you'd be willing to look at the website. Or perhaps you let me send something to you. What you have to ask permission. I have some information I'd like to share with you. Once they give you permission, then they'll read it. If you don't ask for their permission, it goes in the toilet. They flush it. If you ask for permission, they are willing partners. Yes, please. I'd be interested in that information. I am much more likely to read it, to engage in it, to do something with it because you asked permission. So perhaps you'd like to hear it. I have some thoughts. Perhaps you'd like to hear those thoughts. So what I've done is summarize what we are talking about. Remember, I showed you the goals of the campaign, personalizing the script. It's just supporting those efforts. This is a summary of what we've just all talked about. We want to generate a list of voter issues and priorities. You do that by asking open-ended questions. Listen reflectively and with empathy, right? You want to make sure the voter is aware of the congressional race and the opportunity to unseat a Republican. That's important. You ask open-ended questions and listen. You provide information with permission. You judge the voter's willingness to vote for a Democrat on a scale from 1 to 10. Ask the scaling questions. Inquire as to what informs their number. Seek clarification. And then begin change talk as appropriate, which we've just talked about. What's going to move it from a 5 to a 10, etc. So very simple. If you know what you're trying to do, you have the skills. These are the skills that you're going to use to accomplish those goals. And now I've got a second for, are there questions in the chat? And any other questions that people have?
Well, we've been answering them along the way in chat, but
Good.
this is an opportunity for, and thank you for all of you who've given us so many great comments and thoughts. But is there anything that we can cover in a few minutes that anyone has any outstanding questions? I like the way Nelson has been thinking about how we share information to younger voters at graduations, for example, about, like inspiring words, not like, you better go vote, you're ruining our country, which I honestly have heard a person say in a phone bank. So that was interesting to hear Nelson's ideas for that. But anybody else want to chime in? Any questions? A phrase I remember. Okay, so how do you respond to people who are concerned about us collecting their data and tying their response to them?
Just tell them we're watching you.
That's the Kathy Walsh sense of humor right there.
Yeah.
I'd probably explore that a little bit more with them. You must have had some bad experiences with that. I don't blame you for being suspicious. Lots of folks are collecting data. Let me tell you what I know about what the campaign is going to use your data for. I don't know. I think if you just don't discount it by saying, oh, that's, they'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No, it's a worry. Discuss that worry with sincerity and give them as much information as you have about it to answer their question. And if they still don't want to give you information, that's all right.
Actually,
Does that help?
Susan D asked, how does the data collection work? So I think maybe this is because earlier I said that in response to someone who said that affordability is probably the thing that's most in people's minds. And I said that in our phone calls this year, we have been collecting data. It's like, metadata basically, from not like this voter said this or this voter said that, just like, what are the issues that are most important to people right now? Just so that we can connect with them better rather than starting to talk about like, I don't know, I know one of the ones that always comes up, international affairs was one of the issue buckets we had. And, now it's the war, basically. But yeah, so it's not like individual data that we're collecting that we're going to use in some nefarious way. It's the total, the total of what we're hearing. And then Nadine says, what do you think of the technique that says public records show that you vote?
What to what end? It'd be my question. What's the value of that?
Public records show that you vote. So sometimes, people say, how did you get my information? And
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think that's what Nadine means.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that's an answer. That makes sense. Sure.
Yeah. And back to what do you Oh, yeah, right. I agree, Elsa. We never, I agree with you not to say the campaign. I've heard that quite a bit too. That's very robotic and like the whole point here that we've been making today, and Kathy, you can sum it up, I'm sure in one sentence better than I can, is that we're trying to connect with voters. We're not trying to lecture to them. We're not representing as some, impersonal Democratic campaign or party. We're people and we're volunteers, frankly. I often say that. And I tell people who are students to say, I'm a student making these calls, or I'm a nurse. I mean, I think it's better when we make ourselves understood as human beings talking to
A
them.
real person. And I also want to make the point too, is that even if you mentioned something about it, Susan, at the start, just making contact with somebody, even if they're not on the phone with you for a length of time, if they had a contact with you that was personable, that you were nice to them, maybe you didn't get everything you wanted or needed from them. Maybe they didn't stay on long enough to answer all your questions. That's okay. They'll get called again. But that they're identifying this is somebody who's a volunteer, who's working for Democrats, who had a nice relation, who tried with me. That's valuable.
And we always say that, in a phone call or any conversation you have with a voter, believe me, you're not just influencing that one voter with the good conversation that they just had. They will tell people in their family, they will tell your friends. So, I just had a conversation with a Democrat and they were really respectful. And, that, like, again, back to the, why do we say that we're with the Democratic Party? I think it's way better to say that than to suddenly bait and switch later and say, hey, we're calling to tell you to vote for this candidate. So that's where I come out on.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you get my information? FYI, that is publicly available voter rolls. Anybody can get, you can literally go to your registrar of voters and pay a very minimum fee and get all the information for voters in your district, obviously showing ID and all that, but it's publicly available info. So I think we got to wrap up right now. Kathy, anything else you want to say? Final words?
Just final thank you again for doing this work, number one. And number two, practice. Just practice. Keep track of just practice those things. Oh, I know how to do that. Yeah, think about it again and practice it.
And using it in your life.
Use it in your life.
I think it literally has helped me in my relationships. And just so you know, in about 10 minutes, we're going to start a phone bank. We're going to be calling a California congressional district we need to hold in the Central Valley. We're going to have coaches on hand to train you in the amazing auto dialer that we use, which and connects you with more people so you have more conversations. So if you want to continue on, please just stay on the Zoom with us. You're going to be in the background and probably hearing us change, personnel here, but just stay on with us. We'll start up again at 2:30. Okay. So again, thank you for coming. It was really great to see you all and to have you here for this training. Margaret has something to say.
I just wanted to say that Elsa commented this, Kathy. She said, please give your script information to every DIM phone banker. Yeah. Thank you, Elsa. Elsa's been very active on chat.
Thanks,
and
Elsa.
Elsa's really, she's always right too. Yeah, we don't say how, you absolutely do not know how people voted. That's the info that actually the Trump administration is trying to get from all these registrars of voters in all these states. It's just general information. It doesn't say anything about how you're registered, just general information. You do get if they register for a Democrat or Republican, but it's not, I didn't mean to say registered, how you voted. That's it. It's very general information, but it is available. Okay, cool. Well, everybody, thank you very much. Great to see you, Jonathan. I'm glad you got in. We're going to send you the recording and the slides, as I mentioned, as soon as I can grab it from Zoom. And hope you stay on for the phone bank. And if you want to, just go ahead. You can leave turn your video off for now and go and take a break. But our phone bank is coming up, and you can just stay here, and we'll get you. You don't have to sign up or anything. Just stay here, and we'll start it up again in a few minutes. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank you.
afternoon.
Thank you, Kathi Walsh.
Kathy, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, Kathi, thank you. Oh,
There's
whoa,
Helen.
she popped off already.
I know it.
She doesn't waste any time, that one.
No, it's always good.
Okay, so I know, let's see. So Helen, hi Helen, thank you. Wait, I'm going to make you a co-host. I really appreciate you came. Let's see. So there you go. So let's see. So apparently, so Margaret and Helen, right now you're the only staff
Well,
members. Oh, wait, there's Sue. Okay, phew. Thanks, Sue. I
there's
missed you. Oh yeah.
Sue and
Honestly, Susan.
And
Leanne says she'll be here at
yeah,
2:30.
Leanne says she's going to be a little late, and then also this other coach from Grassroots Dems, I'm going to find out if she's coming because I know that everyone wants to, has other things to do today. So bottom line is the minute we get we see how many people show up, that's the first step. Like if it's only a few people, like I can handle that. You don't have to hang on. But if I was just wondering like how many people were going to show up since it was promoted by California Democratic Party to over and over. So who knows? We might see more people show up. But right now we have a few people, and that's great. And if you don't mind, we're gonna make. We already have our. If you take a look, Helen, you just entered, but now that you're co-host, you can look in the breakout rooms. We do have two breakout rooms, one for new, one for experienced.
Oh,
And
okay.
what did we decide, Sue and Margaret?
I'm experienced. Margaret is new.
There you go.
I think we decided CD 13.
And we're going to call CU 13
Oh,
because
Okay.
the 2020.
Lori very smartly mentioned, and I know this, I've been concerned about the CD 22 list getting a lot of, hangups and also I heard that another thing that's happening is some people are saying they already voted and we're trying, this is what Tracy's answer was to that. Yes, so if they do say they already voted, I kind of think that that's the problem with starting this off as a get out the vote call rather than saying that we're talking to people about their issues. And Margaret and Sue and you all can talk to that. But bottom line is, we really still want to have these. We want to make a connection. We're not just checking to see if they voted. That is not what these calls are about. So, but now there is a button on the first page with the not home, people who aren't home, and all that stuff that says already voted. So that's one thing.
And the link to the CD 13 scale to win is on our Excel
I
sheet.
should,
I mean,
okay, so
okay.
yeah,
Sue-
our normal Excel sheet. So between Leanne and I, one of us will go to new and one will go to experience.
Why don't you pick right now?
All right, I'll go to new.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay. All
Just
right.
because it was the first thing I said.
Yeah, I know, that's good. Okay, so now why don't we change our names now to coach from
Okay.
staff? And Sue already has that. And so let's see. So we have new.
I'm assistant.
So where did you say again, Helen, you're going to?
So I'll go to new, but
Okay.
I'm the assistant coach, right?
Yes, exactly. We're not going to have one on, I'd be surprised, we'll see how many
I
people
think we
show
need
up.
one-on-one. Okay,
5 minutes from now it starts. So
I know.
And okay, I'll be right back.
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
by the way, take a break, Sue. You too. Helen and I can chat, but you
Okay.
guys take a break.
Susan, quick
Oh,
question for you.
cool.
On the already voted, so we're not pressing them at all to see, which party they voted for.
Oh, when they say already voted, well, that's what I mean. You can have a conversation with them following that, but they might want to just get off the phone. But
Right.
if you look at the script, though, it's not like we're just giving that's, the script doesn't just end there. So like in my,
Well, like, yeah, with
Yeah.
on the front page
yeah, on the front page,
with
yeah.
the already voted, then it's done. It doesn't
Yeah.
go any further. So
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
right.
oh, wait, you can go forward.
I'm looking at the script, so if
Yeah. Did
unless
you
I'm
open
talking to the
Scale to
correct
Win?
person,
Yeah.
it's on the main page for already voted,
Yeah.
and that's it. It doesn't,
But it stops there? Okay,
doesn't-
okay. Yeah, that I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it doesn't
Right.
proceed any further
Right,
to
right.
gauge
So
support.
that said, like, I don't think you would have, that's her point, though. You're talking to the correct person is what you would click. And then you would go into that conversation, and then they might keep interrupting. I already voted. I already voted. And say, well, basically, there's a lot going on. Hey, I hear you, but we really
Gotcha.
want to hear what your issues are. Yeah, that's right, Sue. I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And then you
All
go
right.
back and put in already voted.
Right. Okay, cool. All right.
Unless you have a good conversation with them, you just say talking to correct person. It's not like, I have to say, I think if someone already voted and they tell you that, I would be annoyed if, you didn't acknowledge that.
And quick question for those coming in. Do you have somebody who's going to admit people?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm looking at
Okay.
that. Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah. So, yeah, you guys are going to be getting ready, because I know we haven't called for 13 in a while. So why don't you just leave computer audio or video right now, and I'll handle admitting
Yeah.
when we start up in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
But I'm going to do my slide, my little slideshow too.
Great. Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm going to go grab all the links up in chat.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, do you want me to do the chat for you, or are you just gonna be really short for the introduction?
Oh, yeah, that's cool. If you, if you don't want to, because, right, you're the assistant coach, that would be great, because Sue and Margaret are the coaches. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
so I just opened all the links got all those links ready for myself for the assistant, but
Oh, thanks.
I can do the main room chat if you want.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, like the BAC website, then there's the thing with they come in their phone.
Yeah,
But
I'll
yeah,
just go to that doc for the main room. Yeah,
don't put on in the one that says that phone bank will start at 2:30. We'll be calling for CD 22, because we decided to call for
right,
CD
we're just
13.
doing 13.
Yeah, it's really just those two things. The
Just
thing about the Zoom link, if you came in on your iPhone.
okay, but I don't need to do it for the waiting room because everybody's going to be coming.
No, yeah, there's only a few people here, so we'll see if we even have enough to support 2 rooms.
I know.
Well, I do have the slide that's, if you're experienced, we're going to be making calls for, for um, uh, um, the for CD 13.
For what, Susan?
For CD 13.
Okay.
I'm going to say, if you're experienced, we're going to be calling CD 13.
So the
Oh.
only two that you want me to put in is just that if they came in on an iPhone to come back.